found out something new and I was a little bit like, sorry, what? Found out that people used to think for hundreds of years that California was an island. Literally for hundreds of years, people made maps showing California as an island. And it wasn't until like the 1750s that they confirmed that it was in fact not an island. So the Spanish started traveling and sailing all around North America and South America and like mapping it out. And these maps were getting relayed back to Europe. And what was crazy, it was that the original maps showed California as an island. And then other maps were showing California as part of the mainland. There was kind of like a fight going on, but the whole argument wasn't cleared up for hundreds of years. Okay, that's not that weird. It's a new land. People get confused. People are going off other people's maps and people get mistaken for what's what. But what is crazy is that the maps, the older maps that show California as an island, tend to be more precise and more detailed than the maps that show it as a mainland. So people trying to find this island of California were sailing around, and they did. They found the bottom end of California, which is like a kind of stick. The mainstream story is that people were obviously confusing what was the very bottom tip of California and just assuming that it went all the way around and kind of mixing legend and lore. I'm going to show you some of these maps because what's crazy is these maps are like super detailed. So we've got this one which has all the degrees, loads of like these little islands here, and there's a river which shows a very detailed lake in the middle of mainland North America. There's like so many of these maps. We have over 800 of these maps showing California very detailedly as an island. And what's interesting is you can again here, like there are hundreds and hundreds of maps. Ooh, this map is cool. Tell you why this map is cool, because if you can see down here at the bottom, it shows Antarctica with animals on, like turkeys and beavers and whatever those animals are at the bottom. Weird map. This is a Chinese map, and this Chinese map, so not only does it show Antarctica with animals on it, but it also shows California as an island, which I thought was really weird. Okay, so my first question was, is this possible? At some point in the past, was California an island? Like way, way, way back? Can we totally rule that out? What have we got that completely rules that out? There's even old maps that show over a period of time the changing of California Island to the mainland. You can see here like the different stages. They were mapping the different stages of it becoming part of the mainland. So we have hundreds of years of arguments over whether or not California was an island or whether or not it was part of the mainland. In 1747, King Ferdinand VI of Spain actually made like a public declaration to say California is not an island. That's how much everybody was like arguing about this back in the day. People were adamant it was an island, and people were adamant it was part of the mainland. Also, I didn't do this. I'm absolutely read this off a blog, but I'm going to show you 4 little islands that appear in a lot of the maps. So we get here, you can see the 4 islands that are in between California Island and the mainland. They are correct if you flooded the mountain ridge today. Those 4 peaks of the mountains would be above the level of the water. So what's the theory here? So either everybody was just completely mistaken from the start and it always was just a complete and utter accident. People mixing the lore legend of the fantasy novel of the island of California with all the Amazon women and the gold. That was getting mixed up with the early map makers and they just somehow got it massively, massively wrong. And like nobody seemed to be able to confirm or deny it for hundreds of years. So either that happened, or is it possible that there is another reason why there were so many detailed, precise maps that showed California as an island? Is it possible? I wonder. This is what I'm thinking about, because we all know about the Piri Reis map. It is a map that was made in the 1500s, and it was made in the, let me see, was it Turkey? Middle East? It was around that Middle Eastern area. I believe it was Turkey. And the dude that made the Piri Reis map, he said that he made it by collating loads of really super ancient maps. Why this map particularly has got loads of interest is because the map appears to show a very precise land line of Antarctica, which shouldn't be possible because we didn't discover Antarctica until like the 1800s, right? So how is a map in the 15th century made from much, much, much older maps that are now lost and destroyed? How can we know where Antarctica was? Here we go, here's the map. So you've got Africa, you've got South America, and then you've got Antarctica, which is correct according to the American military or American Navy or Air Force, someone in America. They said that it was correct. They said that the map is correct in terms of the landline of Antarctica. So, Also, there is a island, interestingly, on the Piri Reis map. Up there in the top left, I want to say, there's like a kind of red island in the sea. With this one here. That one right there. Should make it bigger. There we go. So the island in the sea that was mapped out on the Piri Reis map, which like isn't there today. However, if you do look underground in the Atlantic Ocean around Bermuda, there is a kind of landmass that is around the same shape. Should we pop both of them on there at the same time? There we go. We're going to line them up. That's a bit weird, isn't it? Who knows? Maybe there's sunken islands all over the world. So, is it possible that there are ancient maps that used to exist, like the maps that were source material for the Piri Reis map? Were there ancient maps that existed that mapped California as an island? Because at some point in time, California was entirely enclosed by the sea at some point. The Californian fault line, it runs right alongside almost the border of California as a state. So, I mean, it's a pretty crazy fluctuating place to be in the world, if we probably look at it for the last 100,000 millions of years. So, you know, is it a place that could have potentially at some point had some sort of movement that we didn't record because it happened when there was no recordings? If we're running with the idea that there was an ancient civilization before the beginning of what we think when we think civilization started, what if they had mapped out the West Coast and they'd found it was an island, and so that the ancient maps that were coming out in the 1500s, they were being copied by mariners, by explorers, and the cartographers, they were copying ancient source maps that weren't correct anymore, but they were correct then. I'm not sure if that's possible. I need to do more research. I don't know a lot about geology, so I'm going to maybe bring this to Randall. And any of you guys, I'm also opening this out to you guys out there. What do you think? Can you throw me any evidence for either way? In conclusion, is the island of California purely a massive human mistake and one that went on for hundreds of years, and it kind of just shows the idiocy of humans? Or is somewhere in these ancient source maps, is there a small hint of much older previous source maps, perhaps from a time where people were traveling all over the world and had already mapped it? And is this like a kind of weird overlap? Is there a weird echo in these old source maps from older maps? That's what I was thinking. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it, but I thought it was really cool and I wanted to let you guys know because I'd never heard of it. Again, that might just be because I'm British. Have a great week, guys. Happy hunting. Oh, I sat on my foot. Oh my goodness, my foot. Oh, that's going to be pins and needles, isn't it? Wake up! Is it the good pins and needles or the bad pins and needles? Is it like the painful one or is it like the funny one where it like tickles? Oh no, it's a good one. It's not the super painful one. I'm still recording.